With me here in the studio, I have a legal practitioner, political commentator. Join me to welcome Barrister St. Michael Sigwage. Welcome to TMI. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Nice to be here once more.
All right, so very close to him, a lecturer, Shaka Polytechnic. Join me to welcome Jimmy Oko. Welcome. I appreciate
Good
your
morning, my
comment.
brother. Thank you very much.
So very close to me, he is an Islamic scholar. He's also in academics, academia, so to speak, yes, so to speak. And he's also actively involved in politics. Join me to, I wouldn't want to say anything, and later on, you find out what is going to happen between both of us on this show. But all the same, Ahmed American, welcome to TMI Sunday's edition.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. Good morning, viewers.
This your laugh. This your laugh. Anyway, we'll talk more about it off camera.
All right.
And of course, joining us from US, that should be from New Jersey, right? Honorable Ehi Iraiba. Honorable, welcome to TMI Sunday's edition. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much, Wilson, for having me, and good morning, all.
All right. And all the way from Germany, I have Benjamin Mayer. Benjamin, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Okay. Well, let us start off the discussion with Barrister St. Michael's Iraiba. Now, they said the Constitution, we need a new Constitution. They just take a look at it from that particular angle after, or even in the midst of the protests. Elder statesmen went to pay our beloved president a visit, saying one of the way we can wriggle out of the situation is for us to have a new Constitution. Take it up from there.
I would like to support the call for a brand new constitution, owing that Nigeria, part of our problem is one of a structural crisis. In addition to the leadership, humongous leadership challenge that the country is facing at the moment. If we want to restructure the country, which is the right thing to do at the moment, we have to start with the Constitution. So many scholars have opined, and rightly so, that the country is due for restructuring because the federal system that we operate at the moment is not working. There is need for us to recalibrate the system in order to suit the socio-political and economic dynamism of the nation. We need to use the tools of subsidiarity and constitutionalism to nourish our federalism as it is operable in the United States of America, which is the best example of federalism. If you take a look at our constitution very closely, on the paper, what we operate is federalism, but in practice, we have a system where power is over-concentrated at the center. Such that the center has so much to bite, but little teeth to chew.
All right. So much to bite, but little teeth to chew. I'll come back later on to you to explain that last part. So much to bite, little teeth to chew. Comrade Jimmy Oko, do you share his views? We need a brand new constitution to really make Nigeria better, make it tick.
All right, thank you very much, my brother. Well, I understand that the call for a new constitution has been on the table. Now that the end bad governance protest has reintroduced it with full force, the discussion is coming back, and the president was rightly advised to consider that. But as Nigerians, let us holistically examine the call. I understand that we need our constitution to be better than the way it is now. But I also think that it is not the entirety of the constitution that is bad right now. I feel that a few sections may just need to be amended. Our problem is not merely the constitution. Our problem merely is implementation. Now look at it. The problem that has bedeviled Nigeria for years, corruption, the constitution did not allow that. There is no section of the constitution that has not envisaged very strict punishment for people who are found in these crimes. But the problem is implementation. The problem is the constitution has also helped to introduce institutions. All of these institutions in our governance that will help to implement our laws, to ensure that the society is well governed, to ensure that there is equality before the law, to ensure that there is full separation of powers. All of them are in the constitution, but the problem is implementation. These institutions, I always say that the constitution can only be said to be completely weak if it does not enthrone institutions that will help to implement. But the constitution has suggested that. But the problem is Nigerians, both those in the office and those outside. Many people will go into office and fail. They engage in corruption and other criminalities. But you know the problem? When the issue is mentioned to the public, we discuss it on the basis of tribal sentiments, religious sentiments.
All right.
We justify those that belong to us and condemn those who we feel do not belong to us.
Okay.
So I feel that a few sessions, it is not about changing the whole constitution per se. Like my brother said, I have seen the beauty of federalism in America, but it does not also mean that Nigeria must be America. Okay. We have our own system. If we can make it work, if it works for us, then good. Why is it not working for us? It is the people who are driving the governance.
We'll come to that. So you're saying that we don't need to fine-tune some part of the constitution. Is a major due to implementation because we have a wonderful constitution just for us to implement and fine-tune one or two areas. I'll come back to you, Comrade Jimmy Oko. Well, Alhaji Ahmed, do you share their views or you have a contrary view? Because what St. Michael said, he said, yes, we need a new constitution. He gave strong reasons for that. Why Jimmy said, no, we don't need a new constitution. Just give us one or two touches and let's focus more on implementation. So what's your stand?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I will align with Maoga Jimmy here because when Maoga was talking, I was reflecting on the governor of Borno State that is also implementing this same constitution. And in Borno, we all can score that man, even if we cannot score him 100 over 100. But in terms of bringing governance to his people, I believe we can score him above 50.
I think about Professor Zulum.
Professor Zulum, yeah, Babagana. Okay. So now, the same constitution...
Looks like Zulu.
Thank you. The same constitution is what Alex Otti is also practicing in his state currently, where we're already celebrating good electricity and other reforms that are taking place there. So that makes me to now align with Jimmy that it's not really the constitution per se. It is we Nigerians that are the problem. It is not the constitution. The constitution is there. Implementation, just implement it. Is it the same constitution that will also tell you that local government chairman should not work? The constitution is already there that local government, they are the first, level of governance to the people. It is the same constitution that will tell you local government carry your money and give to the state government. Even when they have also said, okay, there should be full autonomy. I heard in one news reportage that some local government said no, they still want to be under the same government. It is the same constitution that says that House of Assembly should be given autonomy. That some speakers then said no, they don't want autonomy. Is the same constitution? Yes. So no, it's not. I don't see constitution here. It's Nigerians. I don't know what will bring remedy to Nigerians. Nigerians are the problem. Also saying that we should copy United States of America, that is where the problem lies currently. We should not be copying all these people. They are United States, we are Nigerians. China, if China had copied them, China would have not been where they are today. If Saudi Arabia, for example, had copied them, because they were all colonized by the same Britain who colonized us. But at the end of the day, if India, for example, who holistically copied the Britain, they would have not been where they are today. But Nigeria just want to copy everybody. You just want to copy the white men, inch by inch. And it will not work that way. We should be Nigerians for God's sake. And we should do our thing in a Nigerian way. There was a post recently I think in the 1970s, it was in a conference. Look at where the problem lies. Everything in that whole room was not Nigerian made at all. Everything was imported from abroad. How do you expect us to get to where we are going? Okay. There should be a Nigerian way of doing things. If this constitution is the American way, we cannot go back to a Nigerian way of constitution. What will work for us, we should implement it. We should not copy them any longer.
So you are saying
in the developed world right now, they will tell you we should not fund universities. But they are funding our universities there. But they tell us not to fund our universities. They tell us to do this thing, but they are not practicing it. You know that they are the one killing us. They will come and tell you, don't fund universities in Nigeria. But you know those Harvard, whatever, they are being funded. How do you expect us to grow? So we should cut them off entirely and let's do our own thing. We are not done. Benin, for example, was already creating in the 500 years ago when we were having our broadcasting without even the white man technology. But because we came and copied the white man technology, we killed all our own technology as if we were inferior. We were never inferior.
Okay. Because for what you're saying right now, you're saying yes to a new constitution on one hand, and on the other hand, you're saying no to a new constitution. But from your own analysis, that's what I can make out of it. But you just hold on. We'll come back to it. Now, let's move straight down to New Jersey, US, where Honorable Ehi is standing by. I believe that you've tested both words, Nigeria and, of course, the US. I'm talking about the issue of constitution. Do you think that we as a nation, we need a new constitution? Because the elder statesman went to pay a visit to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying that, look, our major problem, one of it, is the constitution. Take it up from there, Honorable.
Well, thank you, Wilson. I listened to the comments from the other statesmen when they visited President Tinubu, led by the former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Chief Emeka Ayanko. Their demands were very salient and valid. I heard some of my co-discussants talk about some powerful individuals like trying to make Governor Oti and Governor Zulum, look like very shining stars. The truth of the matter is, when you have a right constitution, all governors are supposed to be held accountable, and they are supposed to deliver on the dividends of democracy that they have promised their people. However, in Nigeria, in my own thoughts, we are operating a de jure federal system and a de facto unitary system of government. And for a people who have opted for the federal system of government, they just have to be clear-cut principles of separation of power. The principle of separation of power in Nigeria is oftentimes compromised. You have situations where sometimes some state governors relocate state House of Assemblies into the state government houses. That is compromising the principle of separation of power, which is fundamental. So the practice of a federal system, and there are no consequences for these actions. They move in the legislature, merge it with the other day I saw the Rivers State governor, saying, with what you may want to call like a military fiat, that he was going, he ordered the demolition of certain parts of the State House of Assembly. This should not be. After autonomy has been granted to the State of House of Assembly, the head of the executive cannot on his own unilaterally decide that, I want to demolish, I want to renovate the House of Assembly. No, that is not part of your constitutional powers. But of course, there will be no consequence, as it were, in Nigeria. Our constitution needs adjustment. First of all, look at the Supreme Court. If Mr. Winston and I, if we were to argue over a teacup today, that matter have to be decided at the Supreme Court in Abuja. That grinds, yes, that makes our criminal justice system very slow, and a lot of people are deprived of justice. And when there is no justice, a lot of people are going to, you know, depend on other means to get themselves satisfied. And most of the time, they have to use non-constitutional means. We need regional Supreme Courts if we cannot have state Supreme Courts yet. We cannot take all issues to Abuja to a 7-man panel of the Supreme Court. It's just not tenable for a population of over 200 million people to depend on one Supreme Court. That compromises the entire justice system. We have to look at that. My friend also mentioned something very interesting. He talked about how universities are funded, by foreign governments, and they tell Nigerian governments not to fund their university system. The truth of the matter is, I think our university administrators, they have been less than ingenious, with all due respect to them. Universities abroad are actually funded by what you call endowment funds. Look, for instance, I'll tell you, there's just one university I'll use as a case study, Stanford University in California, United States. The endowment fund at the last count is about $36 billion. $36
billion US dollars.
Yes, those are the funds that they are able to generate on their own, and they take a percentage from that fund to run the university. Meanwhile, the entire budget of Nigeria for 2024 is $34 billion. Yes, yes. So Stanford University generates for itself more funds than the entire money meant for the whole of Nigeria to spend in one whole calendar year. Because they are ingenious, they have other means to generate funds for themselves. That's why they don't have strikes about lack of funding. So we need to reorganize our constitution. The constitution is just not working. If we are getting state police, we must get local government police as well. And we have to look at the electoral system. The ways that the constitution of the tenures of local governments as of today are not guaranteed by the Constitution of Nigeria. They are not even mentioned in the Constitution of Nigeria.
I will come back to you, Honorable. I will come back to you now. You just hold on. I'll come back. Now let's move straight down to Germany, where Benjamin Mayer is standing by, still on the Constitution. Benjamin, over to you.
With some of the points Mr. Higariwa raised, I want to refresh our memory on issues in Nigeria regarding the Constitution. Most of us are forgetting that during President Goodluck Jonathan, there was a program called Confab, and within that same regime, we also have what is called Aaron Saye report. I don't think the Constitution, reviewing the Constitution is something that we need to set up an organization for, allocate funds for it, because this particular program has already been organized like 2 or 3 times in the past administration. What I think the government should do is just to wake up and go back to this report, review them, and do the constitutional amendment from there. That is one. And I also want us to know that the confab alone, if you have actually had your time or take your time to go through the confab with the report, you will find that there's a lot of issue that is affecting Nigeria in that was incorporated in that confab report and also in Arusai. If you also look around yourself, you find that it's not just the constitution that is the problem of the country. Enforcing the law enforcing the constitution that we have, implementing it is the problem that Nigerians are facing. If you look at the situation where the House of Assembly, the National Assembly, the senators and other executives are the ones that are deciding the type of salary they will be receiving. For example, who is reviewing the National Assembly salary? Who is reviewing the Senate salary? The president, the presidency also. Nobody's reviewing them. So in the Western world, you do not have a right because you are a political elected person just to wake up in the morning and increase your salary at a free will. It doesn't work like that. There is a ministry, an independent ministry that is operating under the constitution of that country, just like in Germany, that reviews salaries and all that is a flat salary. So even a president that is coming today, or a vice chancellor, a chancellor that is coming today, does not just have right to say, okay, I need to increase that, I need to increase that. No, all those things have already been in place. And that is why you see in most Western world constitution, if election is conducted today, in 1 or 2 days, that person is being sworn into power. Because the files and the power within that office is not going to be 3 months or 4 months is not going to be needed for that person to put his or her office together. No, you go in there with your file. In 2 or 3 days, you lost the election or your tenures are expired. You have also been mandated to also leave within 2 or 3 days, because when it comes to issue of finance, spending, project that you have done, they are in the public archives. They are in different ministry that are monitoring those things. So you don't need to start setting up a panel to start giving an audience or public addresses on how all those things were expanded. The constitution of Nigeria is favoring the selected elite. Why the average Nigerians is just a tool in the hands of our politicians. We first of all need to correct that. Until we do that, this problem that we are facing, corruption, somebody do something and nobody is asking questions, will be put to rest. If we can solve and put a very stiff or stringent penalty for people who are erring against the constitution, who are looting our public treasury dry, the corruption in Nigeria will continue to persist. We have to do something with that, and then we can move on.
All right, I will come back to you, Benjamin. Well, St. Michael's, you've heard the opinions of brothers in diaspora. One said, yes, definitely, something should be done about the Constitution. But still, it boiled down to, various sectors, various segments of the society. You talked about the university being funded, university having 13 billion US dollars, the ones who were able to generate on their own, far above our budget as a nation. Just one school. And of course, Benjamin talked about confab. I mean, these are methods that former President Goodluck Jonathan tried to tweak or revamp or remodel the Constitution, but according to reports, it was swept under the carpet. I'm going to the question now, back at you. The problem with the Constitution, is it a Nigerian factor or the Nigerian political factor? Take it up from there.
It's a combination of all the submissions, all the variables already highlighted. However, I like to submit once more that in principle, what we practice is federalism, but in practice, what we practice is unitarianism. I'll give you a few examples. In Nigeria today, the police force is highly centralized. It's not federalized.
Centralized, not federalized. Could you please explain?
In other words, the police force is handled at the center. Is handled and controlled by the government at the center, which is the federal government. We don't have a police force at the local level. We don't have a police force at the state level. Are you aware that if there's a problem in Igosa here today, the chairman who is in control of this local government, what's it called now?
Oviano
East local government does not have the capacity to respond. He may have to call the governor. Are you aware that if the governor give instruction to the CP, before the CP respond, he will have to seek clearance from Abuja.
And that's constitutional problem.
It's a constitutional problem. We should, you know, if we say we run a federal system, that federal system, you know, should be practiced both in principle and in practice. I'll give you another example. In the judiciary right now, each state have their own high court. But only the federal government, you know, can set up a court of appeal. We have just one court of appeal in each state of the federation. Whereas we have just one Supreme Court that takes care of all matters in the 36 states of the federation, including the FCT. Every land matter in the entire federation goes to only one court in Abuja. What is the implication? The implication is that if you were to appeal a judgment against a land matter today to Supreme Court, you may not get a date this year. Maybe the next available date will be 2 years' time. How do we run a system like this? A system that is run like this, you know, cannot work. That is the reason why matters in this country drag on for years. One matter can take 12 years for it to be disposed. The solution is this. We should have, you know, regional Supreme Courts like Mr. A suggested, or limit the number, nature, and kind of cases that goes to Supreme Court. Not all matters should go to Supreme Court.
And this is about the Constitution.
It's about the Constitution. I'll give you an example again. I told you something just now that we have a federal government that have, you know, so much to bite, but little teeth to chew. At the moment, everything is concentrated. Look at the Constitution. The power is bifurcated into the exclusive list, the concurrent list, and the residual list. Matters listed in the exclusive list can only, you know, be adjudicated upon by the federal government. While the concurrent list can be engaged by both the state and
the federal.
Residual is left for the state. How about the local government? Local government have been subsumed on that state.
All right.
Again, is that we have some matters that should not be in the exclusive or in the concurrent list in the first place.
I'll come back to you.
What is the business of the federal government with the construction and the rehabilitation of roads?
I'll come back to you, St. Michael's, because points are being raised right now about it being the fourth, or will I say, a huge anomaly, so to speak, in our Constitution. Well, Jimmy, you heard him. Now, since the elder statesman, like what he rightly said, led by Ayoko, you know, they're talking about a new constitution, and then just been reacting to it. Some are saying this might just be another confab. You knew how much the administration of my good luck, Billy Jonathan, my president, Billy Jonathan, spent on that particular process. Don't you think this will just be a wide good chase that will gulp so much money from the federation account, of which we are saying that we are broke as a nation?
All right. Thank you very much, my brother. Well, I still want to say that the problem we have, if you consider what my dear lawyer had said and what our brothers in diaspora had just suggested, you see that what we actually talk about, what we are talking about is amendment to the Constitution. not really a fresh constitution.
But when you amend the constitution,
It becomes
what
new.
comes out, it becomes new. Anything
No,
that
no,
comes out
no.
from an amendment is new.
Where at the beginning of the discussion,
Yes.
you know, with the language the protesters used and the language the elders, what do
Elder
you call them now?
statesmen, yes.
So the president, they said
A new
that
constitution.
the constitution of Nigeria should be thrown away and a new one should be introduced. Where if you are saying it is because to amend it and rename, which automatically comes with it, that's what we are talking about. Then there's no problem. What I'm saying is there are sections of the constitution, no doubt, that are giving us problems. And those sections need amendments, no doubt. But what I'm trying to say, the major emphasis should be on implementation of the constitution. Look at it, my brother. My brother mentioned compromise.
Yes.
How those in office, how they compromise is that. In this country, Supreme Court has issued a directive. And somebody said, I'm not following.
It's funny.
And nobody said anything.
It's funny.
So what are you saying?
It's funny.
So
It's funny.
anything from Supreme Court, is it not constitution? Is it not law?
It's the law itself.
So
because
it
when
means that.
someone makes a pronouncement, it becomes law.
So that's judicial precedence, right?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, you find out that it is not even that. So will you say constitution there? No. For instance, okay, look at it. Somebody is commissioner of police in Edo State, and the person is a Nigerian. If the person wants a good society, and it's going to tell me there was an outbreak somewhere, and I was called to come and restore peace, and I must wait to the Inspector General of Police before I do so. And you know where this is coming? It's because of political interest. You get it? Who is telling us? I agree that there's a little amendment we need to do in our security process. But however, as we agitate for state police and all of those ones, that should be brought into the constitution. Let us not also forget. It is practiced like that in the US. But do not forget that Americans are not Nigerians. Nigerians are not Americans. Look at it. Whatever thing we want, whatever we agitate for, let us put into cognizance our social components as a people. Look at it. An American, okay, you may ask my brother there now, a little child in America, in any of the states, will be going to school and see something that defaces the streets, deaths on the road. That little child will stop to go and pick it and put it in the trash can. You get it? You know why? Because the American society has succeeded in training the conscience of the American, in tailoring the mindset of the people. And that is what we have not done. A man that is not informed, that is not educated to accept a particular way of doing things, will always find his way.
All right.
Do not forget that after the 2023 general elections, the concept of "and" in the Constitution became a problem. What are you going to say? Constitution? The Constitution addressed the matter there. But what is the fault of the Constitution to use the word "and" that we did not understand? Not because we didn't understand it, but because we had interest. So no matter how you do the Constitution, my brother, if you bring it from heaven, as long as people are parochial, people are sentimental, people have their own personal, they are selfish in their nature. I tell you, there will always be problem. That is why we must push for implementation.
Now, one of you talked about political influence over the constitution. You may have a constitution, but you're given an opportunity still by that same constitution to interpret it into various forms or different. I don't think that is part of the problem we are having. Hence, the elder statement like saying, look, we don't need this. And moreover, there is this notion that this constitution was given to us by a military rule. that will just kind of operate it efficiently and effortlessly as, in our democratic dispensation. Take it from these two angles, political influence and, of course, it being written by a military junta.
Thank you. I concur with you that the issue is really the political influence. It's not really the constitution. Like from what I've been listening so far, yes, we need to amend the constitution in some areas, like what my barrister have also said in the local government aspect and others. But the issue is really the men. Barack Obama once said that Nigeria need a strong institution and not a strong man. If you check very well, Nigeria have strong men. When you hear the name alone, even the judge himself that want to handle that case will think of the best possible way to make it to suit that very particular person, because the person is stronger than the institution. So we need a strong institution where the police can actually do their job effectively without even considering who is involved in the case. We need a strong institution whereby the law or the judiciary can do their job without even thinking of who is in charge or who the case is affecting. Are you not seeing that in Nigeria some persons deliberately take their case to a particular state for it to be judged?
Yes.
The case, the matter is here in Edo, for example, you take it to Abuja. Why did the person leave Edo State High Court and decide to take the case to High Court in Abuja? Because we don't have a strong institution. So if you like, you rebrand the constitution 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Or you bring in experts that are non-military inclined to write that constitution. Implementation will still be the issue because we are still Nigerians. Because we apply logic. An average Nigerian is a smart guy. That is why whenever a Nigerian live here, the dollar you think is in Nigeria, let him go to any university in abroad. He will still graduate, if not even with distinction. The dollar you think will not survive here, let him go to abroad. They are making waves over there. Look at in the Olympics that just got concluded. The one that couldn't win medal for Nigeria the other time, but using the American flag now, he has won medal. An average Nigerian is a smart person. So the constitution is not the problem per se. Yes, some areas need to be amended. But we, the Nigerians, I'm still saying it, the Nigerian is the issue. Nigerians, you and I. Let us think of what measures can be put in place to build this institution that INEC can stand on its own and conduct an election without looking face. That, okay, yes, you lost, and then the result will be declared. Have you noticed whereby somebody was tampering reading results? If not because of the influence that was involved. If there's no influence, why will you bring a light and somebody will still be stammering to read the results? What came from this collation center should be read the same way it ought to be. It is the institution. The so-called independents are no longer independent. We have our...
I hope you are not referring to independent television.
No. Mr. Wilson, not independent. I was actually referring to
INEC. Okay. All right.
So what I'm trying to say right now is that it is a Nigerian factor. Nigerians, not the constitution. Let's build this institute so that at the end of the day, irrespective of who the case is affecting or the matter is affecting, it doesn't matter. But what the law. So look at Donald Trump when his case got to the court. If while he was still sitting as a president, even when he left, the case still continued. In Nigeria, you will say immunity. Once you have Boris Johnson, thank you. Can you dare that to? Can you even dare that to a state governor? You want to carry and go court? You decrease? You can't even dare it. Which court you want, Judge? Starting from the federal high court here. Who is the judge that will pronounce that case? You can't even dare it.
So you're
the
saying right now,
institution is the most smart whereby the institution will do their job irrespective of whose ass
is God. Okay.
It.
Honorable, I believe you've been listening. They're talking about right now institutions rather than men, because from what they said, if you approach a court of communal jurisdiction, the name sometimes involved may be intimidating to these judges and the political influence in our constitution. Take it up from there, Honorable.
Well, I think what is amiss in the Nigerian state of today is the near absence of the rule of law. You know, the Constitution has placed certain persons above the law itself, such that there are no consequences for their actions. You know, and so they are very arbitrary in their abuse and, very flagrant in their abuse of the Constitution because they know that they can get away with it and nothing will happen. Okay, I'll give you an instance that is very fresh in our memory, and to see how the judiciary was, I would say, compromised, and how they failed to meet the expectation of the people. Okay, uh, some 4 years ago, we had a log jam at the Edo State House of Assembly. It was an inglorious period, such that the State House of Assembly was run by a very few members throughout the whole tenure. What was the issue? The judiciary failed to deliver, for the people. They failed to defend democracy. Why did I say that? The case was before the judiciary, and for all of the 4 years tenure, they could not decide the case at the High Court. He never made it through the High Court to get a decision, and not to talk of going to the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court. What was the implication? The certain constitutions were deprived. They were deprived of their elected officials. If you have decided that case, that was a case of urgent importance. That was a case that touched on the representatives of the people. You would have thought the courts will expedite action, sit on Saturdays and even on Sundays to dispense of such cases, such that there's a judgment either way. So that if you are getting rid of those members or reinstating them, let the people know on time, so that if they are going to have by-elections, but you made sure that you breached the Constitution, which required that the people must have a representative. And today, the chief judge of the state or the federal high court who was in charge, they didn't offer any apologies. There was no consequence for their action. Nobody called them to say, why was this case not heard? Why was there no judgment? Why did he not make it to the Court of Appeal? Why did you put on the Supreme Court? Okay, now look at the case of the deputy governor issue, the logjam tour in Edo State, such that it appears we have two deputy governors. Look at the case of the emir in Kano, for instance. These cases are supposed to have been dealt with, expeditiously, such that we resolve it. If we are having one deputy governor, don't blindside the people. Let the people. That is we have a social contract, which is why we all came together to live. And for the social contract to still make sense to us, for people to voluntarily surrender to the social contract, they must see that the laws governing that social contract is applicable to all at all times, and they can get justice. When people start resigning to fakes and thinking that they cannot get justice from the system, then they will resort to extrajudicial means to defend themselves and to do what they call justice, in their own, which in the strict parlance people refer to as jungle justice. The Constitution, for instance, somebody somewhere smuggled what you call security votes into the Constitution of Nigeria. Security votes is one of the ways that our country is bleeding through today. Every state governor can, on their own, the least governor is probably taking about 300 million naira, which is about $2 million every month, from the state coffers, written on checks in their own names. And these are not monies that the House of Assembly is allowed to investigate. Nobody can investigate how you spent your security vote. Why are you giving security vote to a man that don't control the police force, that don't control the military? So security votes for what? The riots that you saw the other day, the destruction to properties, what was the security votes used for across the whole country? Then the security votes are given to local government chairman. A local government chairman don't control even the DPOs in your locality. They are not under you. They report to the State Commissioner of Police, who in turn reports to the Inspector General of Police. At best, report to the AIG. So why local government chairmen across the 774 local governments collecting security votes? Why are state governors collecting huge security votes? How do state governors determine the security vote they can take? A state governor can decide that he wants to take 1 billion monthly as security votes. How will he do this? He takes it to the ESCO. ESCO are manned by commissioners, and one person proposes and another person just supports. Any amount the governor has brought, his commissioners who are his appointees will determine his own security vote. It is not even the House of Assembly, so any amount he wants, and these things are usually shredded in secrecy. It's doubtful if any citizen in a state today can say, I know what the security vote of my state is. They are shrouded in myth because the constitution permits this, abuse of the people. And this all leads to corruption, massive looting in a legitimate way. You understand? So we need to amend our constitution. When my brother talked about, the little kid going to school picking up trash from the street, the truth of the matter is there is I don't know if it applies in our country because I see people throw, things out onto the streets. If you do that, there are serious consequences for loitering the streets, for putting trash on the streets in most Western nations. And so over time, the people are now aware that when you come into a country, you look at what is going on in that country, you see that there's no one throwing trash out of their vehicle, or, taking some candy and at will dropping the wrap on the street because there are consequences. That's why people don't do it. Not because they don't want to do it, but they know that if they do it and they are caught, the fine is usually hefty to serve as a deterrent to other people. So when, as a child, you are watching your parents not doing certain things, you will not do it when you grow up too, because so it becomes imbibed in their nature. It becomes like a cultural thing, not because they want to do it, but because they know there will be consequences for those actions. You can't have people urinating in the streets. You cannot urinate in the street.
All right.
If you urinate in the street, you'll be arrested.
Thank you.
But in Nigeria, they know everywhere is toilets.
Thank you. Now let's move over to Germany. Let's just get to hear what Benjamin will say about this. We want to have the final, how will I put it now, line on this particular discussion. My guest in the studio talked about Nigeria having a strong institution. Because from what they said, what we have right now are strong men, but weak institution. Do you think if we have a new constitution, it can change this now? Benjamin.
Thank you. The question has a very straightforward answer. You're driving a car that have nothing less than 300 PX, and you're having a new driver who is driving and who is afraid to actually drive that car to its limit. So people who are watching the race of the car will look as if the car is not performing very well. In other words, the constitution that we have in Nigeria today spells a lot of things out and it sets the boundaries. The people we have in government and the people who are supposed to implement that constitution, who are supposed to enforce that law, they're also part of the problem because they are not doing their job diligently. I want to make a reference to what my brother in America said, New Jersey, Mr. Hirariba. He made mention of the House of Assembly in Edo State. Nigerians, we try to forget things very easily, and nobody's going to hold you accountable for it. What is happening in different states in Nigeria when it comes to power tussle in different states actually started since 1999 when democracy returned to Nigeria. And something just happened. We just talked about it on social media and add some personal sentiment to it, and that's it. We debate and that's all. In Western world, it's not like that. What is happening in other states has also happened in those states before. For example, during the time of Oshomole, there were a lot of House of Assembly members that he expelled, and they never returned to the House of Assembly. And that thing affected my constituency directly, and they never returned. And then our dearest father of the blessed memory, late Dr. Chief Tony Aneni, was still alive. A lot of House of Assembly members who belongs to the PDP camp were expelled from the house and they never returned. And during that same time, a lot of things happened that the case went to court and we never had a verdict for it. So you can see that something happened and it was not addressed by the people or by the government, by the constitution, and it continued to happen because we are lied to happen. But I'm very happy. I'm very happy that my generation has actually woken up to the task to say anything that the government does or do, we will stand against the immorality of it. For example, what the protest has done so far, it has actually reawakening the government to let the government know that the masses are not happy. The masses can no longer be cajoled. The masses can no longer be waiting for 4 years to be done, 4 years to be over, for you to tell the masses what you have achieved in your government. So people are beginning to wake up from different directions to point fingers to the wrongdoings of the people in power. The constitution itself is a little bit faulty because it was built on a shaking foundation. Like I said, if this government knows what to do, if this government is competent enough, this APC government, I think they need to revisit the confab, the report of the confab, which Jonathan spent billions upon billions to organize, and also visit Arosai report. Because what we have in Nigeria today, especially the economic hardship, is as a result of the wastage in governance in Nigeria. A governor, president, to the national assembly and to the local government, everybody is spending above what they're supposed to spend, and that effect is not that effect. They are not the one feeling the effect. Is the people from the masses. Is the masses at the receiving end, which is the Nigerian citizens, especially the civil servant. The presidency is creating different departments and allocating funds. Like what my brother also said regarding the security vote, it's only the constitution. But when you look at it, it started in 1999 when security vote was started giving to governors because they are the head of the security in that particular state. So for that to happen, they give these funds to governors so that governors will know how area that is prone to insecurity, so that they will be able to tackle it. That was the essence of it. But now that is not working, that we know that is not working in some state, because I know Edo State that at the moment we are doing just fine. The issue of insecurity in Edo State has reduced drastically, that I can say, because the last time I went there, the issue of kidnapping and all that has actually reduced. So I think we need to look at that particular direction
Thank
to know
you.
how those things are done.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. When we've spoken at length on this particular topic, we'll still be taking a look at it. Let's see what the language of Mr. President will be. The other statesmen have spoken. He has listened, now waiting for action. But it all comes down to one thing: the betterment of Nigerians. And the Constitution, they say, is paramount. We don't want to give us a new one. You want to rejig it, you want to revamp it. All we need are strong institutions backed up by the Constitution to make Nigeria better.